Good afternoon, good evening, whatever time you're watching this. Of course, I am the DL Whisper, and today we're back with how to tell if your man is DL. And I put on y'all favorite shirt today. I had to I always, when people keep bringing something up, or, I try to give people what they want, and I think people actually love this shirt. I think secretly they love it. So, I'm always gonna run it back sometimes. One of a kind. It's not one of a kind, but it might as well be. I haven't saw nobody else with it. It's made just for me. Hmm. Yeah. But anyways, let me share the live to where we need to share the live to. And then we gonna get this thing on the road. How about that? So hopefully everybody's doing good today though. Hopefully you've been having a good day. Amber White, I would never let you come up here ill. Yikes. You a clown. You do it for likes. So no thank you. You know, I'm tired of go somewhere else. Apollo, get away from me with this. Where you guys hit with bad weather. We weren't. Got my carry out. Oh, and you're eating. Don't remind me. Oh, because guess who isn't eating? And guess who's hungry? Me. So don't remind me about food because carry out sound like pizza, and pizza is my favorite. And if you're eating, oh, we getting messy. Oh, you see the shirt? Oh, we not getting messy. But people did keep bringing it up. My bad. I gotta remember that I can't go too high because then my nipples kind of get in there. But we're not gonna get too messy, but just a wee bit, of course. CGC, you're not coming up here either. Because I gotta get this show on the road. When I say this show, I mean like what we came here for. So you came here how to tell if your man is DL, but we are gonna do a back history because a lot of people don't know the back history. So I think it's important that if I'm gonna start educating you guys again this semester, that we do start with this. And what this is essentially, I love a good PowerPoint. I think that some people learn in different ways. For me, I can learn through just audio. Some people need visuals. Some people need pictures. Like, so I try to provide you a whole different ways that we're gonna learn. And honestly, we might not even get to how to tell if your man is DL today because this PowerPoint right here it might hold us in this place. And then in the morning, that's it might be like because you might this might be so much for you to ingest that maybe this will be the only thing we focus on today because I do think it's important for us to learn what patriarchy is. Like if we're gonna talk about DL, man, we have to talk about patriarchy. We have to understand it. You have to, and the reason why we have to understand it is because some of us get it. So some of us are here, but some of us are not here because maybe you don't know about patriarchy because I have been meeting a lot of people that don't know about patriarchy. So I was like, okay, I think what the problem is like when I say something like, i.e., the other day we had a conversation about, how white men view black men, or, how when the money is involved, like the different things that black men may have to do. Everybody doesn't understand that. Like when we say that, I know immediately what you mean by that. But the other people, they may not understand what you mean. So that's what I'm saying. Like sometimes we understand each other, but I have to understand that everybody doesn't understand it. Everybody doesn't have the same access to information. So with that being said, of course, I don't have a title for this PowerPoint. Don't know what I would call it. Oh, I do have a title. It's the LGBT timeline. So I think this is important because we're gonna talk about DL men. But the timeline is important because it educates people. It's gonna make you think a little bit. And again, the harsh part about patriarchy, you'll figure it out. But this is why, and I think this is why I don't do this, because at the same time, I just want to start with, I'm not here to tell you what to believe. I'm not here to tell you how to believe. Yes, I have on my blouse today. I'm not here to tell you how to believe. I'm just here to give you the facts. These are the facts as they lay. So it's been 5 minutes, right? Get the lights up. Make sure y'all come in. Make sure y'all tap. We'll let it go to 10 minutes. I feel like I'm getting energy right now. So let it get to 10 minutes. I don't have on my watch, but we're gonna try to keep this to an hour 15 minutes. I don't want to overwhelm you. Just want to make sure that everybody's able to retain the information. And again, when we have some conversations, we talk about patriarchy without directly saying, hey, we're talking about patriarchy. So make sure you pay attention. That way, in certain conversations, 4 minutes to the 10-minute mark, period. Thank you, Donnie. Thank you. Like that. See, I like how you see how we're going to collectively work this together. That way you're not overwhelmed, because some people might want to, get their dinner together if you didn't carry out. Like, I didn't carry out. So my food is thawing out right now as I speak to you all. So by the time we're done with all of this, my food should be thawed, and then I can go cook and, get ready for bed. You said get the gloves. Oh my God, the glove. You talking about the glove. You said the glove will bring this together. But I feel like I don't need to go into the glove energy right now. It's like Thanos. Like, you don't want me to get the gloves, because if I get the gloves, especially if I get the boxing gloves, like, nah, if I get them, it's over with. Like, I'm about to. That's why I was like, recently when I had showed y'all I had got some new gloves, I shouldn't have showed people that, because people didn't even know the gloves are only for reading right. Now we want the nasty unfiltered show. Y'all are funny. I can't really necessarily be nasty and unfiltered on social media though. Like, if you're only on StreamYard, then that would be that. But I get what you're saying. You just want to see what it would look like with the gloves, I'm assuming. But I mean, with the gloves, because the gloves are always closed. They're always closed. But with the glove, that's what you wanted to see, like what it looked like. And of course, I gotta glue those back on. These are really cheap. Like I told you, I got these from Walmart. Anytime you see me with props, they're gonna be $1. They're gonna come from Walmart. So these came from Walmart. They were $2 actually, but they were in the Halloween section. But yeah, the gloves are for ease. Like, when we're trying to be educational, I almost put on a collared shirt with a bow tie, but I was like, all right, I ain't gonna, because we technically, this was a snow day, because technically it snowed. So I was like, I ain't gonna give them that. I'll just do something light and just put on my messy shirt. Anyways, we're at this 8-minute mark. Do we have any other questions before we get into this? Because sometimes y'all have questions. A lot of people tagged you in that normalize the bulge post. A lot of people are tagging you in the normalize the bulge. What is that? I haven't saw that yet. So today I've been stressed. I can't lie. So I guess for these 2 minutes, I'll kind of tell you, like, I haven't been stressed. Let me not even put that on myself. I haven't been stressed, but I've been occupied. Like, I have a big media, like, if you pay attention to the media, there's a lot of media against me. So I've been having to make sure that I don't let the media, like, spin the narrative. Like, if you pay attention, like, T.S. Madison has been, like, spinning the hell out of this narrative. Like, I don't think, maybe y'all don't pay attention. Maybe y'all don't pay attention, but he been spinning the hell out of this narrative. So therefore, I've been having to make sure, like, I'm kind of watching, because the way that he's spinning it is just, it's really ludicrous. But I feel like if I don't clear it up, it could work. No, I'm still not monetized, but I had to accept the fact that in order for me to be monetized, I have to stop cussing people out. I have to stop playing music, even though I be trying to work on the music will take you out. I just feel like it's so many standards. Like, I just prefer that once I get my website up and we're there, then maybe I'll get advertisers. But I'm like, I'm too raw. Like it's hard for me to clean it up. Like I used to be so clean when I used to talk, and then the trans community just kept poking and poking, and it's like now, uh, we'll be in the middle of a live, and then I'm cussing somebody off. That used to not be typical. I used to could run a whole entire live and never let them see me get mad, even though I used to be like, getting frustrated. But here lately, it's been like some months since I ran a live and didn't get upset. How many hours does it take to maintain a social media account? Oh, and we at the 10-minute mark, so let us start. But I will answer that question. So it depends. Like for me personally, it doesn't take that long because I pre-schedule everything. So I know y'all always be like, "Oh, it's 7 a.m." Like I already have like if something happens today, like right now, I wouldn't be making videos this late unless it's serious. But or I wouldn't be posting. I might go ahead and make the video and just pre-schedule it for in the morning with my other videos. So basically, it doesn't take that long if you pre-schedule things and if you already know what you're gonna do. So if you become a content creator, like when you think content, it's like storyboards. You have to already know everything. So when you're filming, I don't do a lot of takes. Like I can usually do everything in one shoot because I already know my thoughts, I already know how I feel. It's like when you're just being yourself, it's easy to make content because you just be yourself, whatever that is. Because some people's selves, I don't like them, but they're still themselves. But yeah, so it's just being yourself. And as far as being an educator, like I'm an actual educator in real life, so I just kind of incorporate what I was already doing. Like I already done seminars and PowerPoints and already educated people, so I just kind of incorporated DL man, make the PowerPoints. So I think it's just about consistency. Like I when I first started, I used to go live 3 times a day. 7 a.m., 3 p.m., 7 p.m. to make sure that okay, in the morning time, some people are gonna catch me. In the middle of the day, some people are gonna catch me, and at the end of the day, that way I gave everybody at least 1 hour of me. So that was like 3 hours per day. But if you look at my phone nowadays, like my screen time is like really, really low. Because the only time I'm really on my phone is when I'm doing this. Other than that, I'm watching Dateline NBC or Law and Order. And just being a fat ass. Like I eat a lot of chips and I just be relaxing. But regardless, let's go ahead and get into it. Of course, this is the LGBTQ timeline. And the reason why this timeline is important is because this is where we're gonna learn about patriarchy. And I know you're like, and you know what? I just had an epiphany. If patriarchy came from gay shit, it explains why men that are conditioned by patriarchy are gay. Because you see how I'm saying, like, it's the LGBT timeline. LGBT. It's the LGBT timeline, but this is how we're going to explain patriarchy. That explains everything. That, like, I literally just cracked it right in front of you. Like, that, I just had a whole epiphany right now. That's why these men are so gay, because patriarchy came from gay shit. You said, would I ever do a meet and greet? Mm-mm. Unless I had some good security. I think a meet and greet would turn into like a brawl. Like, people would definitely pay to fight me. What can I say? Okay, so regardless, pre-colonial times, we need to talk about global gender and sexual diversity. And something I want to remind you guys that we have to remember, they're trying to do away with gender. I think it's something to where it's like everybody is just gonna be a human. Something weird, but it's gonna impact women. That's why I was like, we'll have to talk about that, but we're just gonna start here. And I will leave your comments on the side so I can see what everybody is saying. Don't get too crazy in the comments. Thank you. So, okay, when we start this, the reason why, and oh yeah, let me also say this. So, if you ever have anything that's important or that you think I need to hear or that I need to know about, I do not check social media messages that often. Like the only way I'll check your message typically is if I accidentally click it because it's so many messages. What I will tell you is I always frequently check my emails. I always frequently check my emails. So Amy Campbell, if we get to how to tell if he's DL, your question will be answered in that PowerPoint. But this is like a pre thing that you have to know. This is a prereq before we can get into how to tell a piece deal. So if you make it to how to tell a piece deal, that question, which is what made me passionate about this content, that's gonna be answered for you. So, just make it to it. So either way, I just want to start with, okay, indigenous two-spirited people across the Native American tribes, because okay, we're always hearing about these two-spirited people. Now, when I done my research, it's not a when they say two-spirited, from my interpretation, because these are all interpretations by people. I don't think they meant like you're a male and a female. I think what they meant is that like you have like masculine and feminine energy. That's all I can assume. Because nobody's a hermaphrodite. Well, some people are a hermaphrodite, but you get what I'm saying. I'm just gonna assume that they meant masculine and feminine spirits, like you know, balance. I always say like I think the best people are balanced. So Luke Adam, if you make it past this prereq of the LGBT timeline, your answer of are simps really the straight man? It will be answered in how to tell if a man is DL. You see how I love it? Like all of y'all questions, they will be answered. I promise. You got to think. I'm an educator. I already know the questions that you're gonna have. Okay, so that's something that I want to talk about because in many African, Polynesian, and Asian societies, gender diversity in same-sex relationships existed and were normalized before colonialism criminalized them. So why that's important is because if it was not for white people, that just got to be clear. If it was not for white people creating these words like gay, bi, and creating sexuality, like people would just be human. Okay? People would be human. The reason why they created these words were so they could create laws. Like words are required. Like laws are nothing but a bunch of words. So you have to have the words to create the laws to police the people. Like it's all when you think about everything, every system that's created is typically used to police somebody. So that's how you need to be thinking about patriarchy because this isn't saying patriarchy outright, but when we talk about colonialism, that's essentially it's a part of it. Like I mean that when you start seeing like colonized, that's like white people, European. Like you should start thinking like patriarchy, like white supremacy. Like yeah, when you see that word. And of course, you have some pictures to kind of signify that. That's why I said some people are visual learners. But this is just very important because if we never got colonized by white people, this is kind of how we would be living. But anyways, let's keep going. So in the 1400s, because of course, like I said, the colonization is very important because this is where patriarchy starts. Okay, so in 1415, the Portugal began expanding. So the Portuguese captured somewhere in North Africa, and that's where the European overseas like first colony started. So that's important because that means that this is when white people, came over there. They hadn't started a bullshit just yet. And they always tell people, I knew they watched. They watched to see like what the people were doing. This is why I say they already knew people were gonna be gay because they were already gay. So they watched us to see if we were gay too. And it's like, I mean, no offense to everybody, but I think people are already gay. Punch me in the head a bunch of times. I think people have been gay. I don't think gay should have ever been a word. Literally, if you didn't know that word, we would just all be humans. Some humans might like other humans that are the same as them. Some won't. Like it would have just been something that would have just been happening. We would have never just. But I'm just saying, like, it's important to know why these things are created. Because I'm not saying that you should just overlook it and accept that, oh, some men are gay, because not all men are gay. But okay, so in 1492, which is very important, that's when they tell us that Christopher Columbus landed in the Americas. Of course, he landed here, but he wasn't the first person here. There were already people here. There were already indigenous people here, which is very important because indigenous people are not white. So I know we have this notion that like, okay, white people came to America. No, 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 no. They weren't the first ones. People are already here. It was already indigenous people here. Now we're not going to argue about what color they were, but what we will say is that they were melanated. They weren't white. They weren't white. So of course, we kind of go over some more stuff. I don't really like to talk too much in depth about like the history until we get to the right parts. But okay, this is important. So Spain and Portugal divided the world between themselves for colonization. Okay, Spain and Portugal. What is that telling you? This is why this is important, because this happened in 1494. So this formalized the European control over vast parts of Africa, Asia, and the Americas. European powers began colonizing Africa, the Americas, and Asia. Colonizers violently imposed Christianity, gender roles, and anti queer laws, erasing many indigenous queer identities and cultural norms. And I say that and I put that because that's important to note. And I'm going to read it again because this is sad, but this is also something that's important. And this is why I don't talk about it, because I still am a Christian. Like, is this sad? Yes, but we can't undo it, and I'm still a Christian. But European powers began colonizing Africa, the Americans, and Asia. Colonizers violently imposed Christianity, because remember, Christianity spread globally. That's everything starts with Christianity. That's why I put it first. What? How do you think we got gender roles from Christianity? Gender roles were created to control people, and there was anti-queer laws because, like we just established, like in most cultures they felt like everybody was two-spirited. And to me, like I keep telling you, I think that, not to say that everybody was gay, but they had gay people is what I'm saying. Like, people, there have been gay people throughout time. I think that when you demonize it, then you have people that aren't comfortable in their skin. Like, again, they had anti-queer laws. Some places it's illegal for people to be gay. I can understand a man being DL if it's illegal. Like, if your life is going to be taken because you're gay, be DL. In America, that's not the case though. But anyways, that's something that we also need to talk about. So in 1619, this is important because this is how I feel like black people got so involved. So in 1619, chattel slavery started in the U.S. So the word chattel, the chattel cattle. So the reason why this is important is because this is when the first enslaved Africans were brought to the Americas. So under slavery, black bodies were sexualized, they were controlled, and they were punished. Again, chattel. Like, you know how cattles are, you know, wrangled and all of that. That's how black people are. That's why it's called chattel slavery. There's different types of slavery. You can be an indentured servant, which is a form of slavery. But the thing that I'm saying is that chattel slavery, and can we get Miss Feisty Morgan out of here? Actually, let me see if I can do it. Like, I hate when people come in being negative. It's like, trans people, this is not the space for you. It's not. It's like, we're gonna get to you and why you fucked yourself over and why you've still been hurting women. But for now, let's talk about this because this is also why certain things are a little demonic. Okay, so black bodies were sexualized, controlled, and punished. Any deviation from heteropatriarchal norms was demonized. Queerness was seen as unchristian and associated with racial inferiority. And the reason why that's important is because essentially it was like white people aren't going to be gay. That's what that would mean. Like that notion is like, and that's why you see the DL community was started by black people, because a lot of those stigmas and stereotypes, it really applied to black people. White supremacy codified these beliefs that whiteness meant civilized, straight meant moral, blackness meant animalistic, perverse, and hypersexual. So it's kind of like where I be telling y'all how people curse you, but when they continuously keep speaking things over you, and then you start to become that. That's what happened with a lot of black people, and because of the things that happened during slavery, like butt breaking and all of these other things that we don't necessarily have to talk about, even like breeding people. Like, it's a lot that I feel like they done to black people that's kind of like passed on from generation to generation, because trauma can be passed on. People don't get that. Like, a lot of people, like, let's just say this, like, some people are afraid of the police and they have no clue why. It's because that trauma has been passed on, because like slavery was like not that long ago. I don't think people realize that there's still people around that own slaves. Slavery wasn't that long ago. The trauma is still there. So that again, you don't have to be what people say you are, but I think a lot of people, to me, words are very powerful. And when people keep speaking things over you, if you're not a strong person, maybe you will become that. I'm not just saying that that's true, but I don't know. Words are just too powerful, which is why I don't play with people with that. But okay, so white supremacy used heteronormal activity and gender policing as tools of control. Because again, let's remember when we talk about power, the true power, okay, free will. Everybody has free will. There's physical power. Some men possess physical power. I don't think white men are typically gonna come to your mind when you think physical power because they're they're typically not the most like they don't have the physicality. And then the other form of power is women have a womb. Women literally keep society going because if women don't have children, then how would society be going? So a wound is so powerful, and that's why I say women don't understand that some men recognized at one point how powerful women were, and they created all of these systems to try to control women. Because to me, men are easily controlled. The issue is, especially black women are not easily controlled because all of this stuff that they put in place and all of these systems, like it's not working against black women specifically. But the first enslaved Africans are brought to the English colonies in the North America. Slave creates rigid racial hierarchies and introduces Christian based sexual control, which includes criminalizing queer behavior. Okay, so I always tell people I am still a Christian because I feel like the Bible isn't the problem. It's the fact that like by it being a source of information, like I told people, it's like one of those things where if you're writing a research paper, you're gonna go and get the parts that help you with your point. So some people will use parts of the Bible to push things that maybe shouldn't be pushed, and they just use that specific part. It's not like when you go to church, you're listening to the whole Bible. Some most pastors use like 2 pages and will preach for over an hour off of 2 pages. So you see what I'm saying? That's why I was like, it's not about Christianity being bad. It's about people using religion because black people are the most like spiritual, I feel like. Um and they use the religion to manipulate other stuff. I think. That's why I was like, I don't think Christianity is bad. I think some people using it against people is bad. That's like when you meet those men that be acting so religious and they act like, oh, I would never do this and that. And when they're at church, they act so perfect. But behind closed doors, people would never know who they really are. That's what I mean by using religion to manipulate people because it's like you're literally pretending to be this person and you're, oh, I'm a God fearing man and I don't do this and that, but behind closed doors, you're cussing, you're fornicating, you're doing all of these things that you literally talk out against. That's why I say, like, if you're with a man that's very religious, it's easy to tell if those men are who they say they are because are they actually living by what they're preaching? Okay, let's keep going. So, also, we got to talk about the 1700s to the 1800s where white supremacy codified. So, white supremacy is built into law, religion, and science to justify colonization and slavery. Okay, see, and this is where I say, like, where Christianity was used for a bad part because, they use Christianity to justify slavery. Of course, nowhere in the Bible is it justifying slavery or especially enslaving just black people, let's be clear. But they use certain parts. And Remember, English is the hardest language to learn for a reason. So when people were learning about Christianity, they were just trusting people. They didn't know how to read a motherfucking Bible. You think they was out there reading a Bible? No, they had like that's why I say like imagine if English is hard to learn now, I'm pretty sure it's always been hard to learn. So that's why I was like back then they were just trusting that people was telling them what the Bible said. That's like you giving me Braille and I'm just touching it and I ain't never done that before. Or like remember when that lady was doing fake sign language and she made all of that money before somebody that was deaf realized like, hey, she's not even doing the right sign language. Remember that happened in Chicago? I think that was Chicago. And I was just like, I would have never knew that she was doing the wrong because she literally just over there throwing up. And then when they broke it down, she wasn't doing nothing, and they was paying that lady a lot of money. But anyways, no, I'm sorry, a little tangent because this is important information. So, okay, so queerness is increasingly demonized as non-white or immoral, especially in the Black and Indigenous bodies. Because, like I told you, remember we're gonna scroll back a little bit. Remember, they went over there in 1415. So from 1415 to 1492, them bitches was watching. They was watching Black people. They was trying to see how we was doing our damn thing because you got to think Africa had all of the fucking resources. So they was watching and planning and plotting, which is how they knew that some people were gay. I'm telling you, like in my heart of hearts, I believe that they watched. They saw that some people was gay. They said, okay, we know how we gonna like do it. Like I just feel like that's what happened. But either way, I just had to go back to that to remind you that they were watching us for a long time, which is why I feel like with this was very like intentional with the making queerness, demonized as non-white. Because why non-white? You get what I'm saying? Like white people can't be gay. You get what I'm saying? Like they really like you. Come on now, the most gay. They really said this, knowing that they were the most gay, and that's why I always say like, well, I know white men are some bullshit because they done shit like this when they're the most gay. They the ones who made up the BBC term. People only want BBC because the white men wanted BBC. That's not even weird calling it BBC. I don't even call it cock. Like, ew. But okay, so we also need to talk about media because also when we get the timeline in here, we have to understand how people are conditioned. So I had to give you a little like LGBT timeline plus a little media breakdown because these are kind of crucial. I took a media culture and society class in college, and I feel like a lot of the stuff that I learned I had no clue about. So that's what I'm gonna teach you. So in the 1800s, this is where media started. So like right now we're on live. This is the media. Hey everybody. In the 1800s, do you think they would have thought bitches gonna be going live in the 2000s? Like in 200 years, these hoes are gonna be going live. They're gonna be pulling up on each other. They're gonna be fighting. Like I don't think they would have thought that because they only had newspapers and photography. Like imagine if we lived in a time where we couldn't record videos and we only had pictures in print. That just sounds scary because I mean, damn, that would have been crazy. Pictures in print, I would have been mad as hell living in the 1800s. But what's important about this is that slave-owning newspapers published racist caricatures, dehumanizing pictures of Black people, and promoted colonial missions. So advertisements in Christian tracts depicted whiteness as purity and Blackness/indigenous people as savagery. So I did put a couple of pictures. Like they used to do stuff like think if they could scrub us and it would remove the black as if the melanin isn't in our actual skin. Or like you'll see where we would always be like these ventriloquist dummies where we got the big ass lips and stuff because you got to think we have more eccentric features. Which now, as you can see, everybody want our features. Everybody want Black people features. Like, but back then they demonized it, which is crazy. Like, why the fuck did y'all demonize it? And y'all wanted it, but it made sense. They hated us. They hated that they couldn't be us so bad that they made us hate ourselves. They like, okay, we can't beat them bitches. We gonna make them hate them and make them think that we're great, and then it's gonna, brainwash them. And it's like a lot of people are brainwashed, which is why you have those men that see they don't care what the white woman is, they're gonna treat them a little bit better. Or when they get money, they equate that to, oh, I need to go get a white woman because patriarchy conditioned them to believe that white is pure. That's why you'll see they have so much self-hatred. That's why I say like BNDL, it's a lot of self-hatred involved because patriarchy plays a big part. Because if you're Black, you're gonna be more than likely dating Black people. Like, not saying that I don't believe in interracial couples, but I just think science, just the way my brain think, I don't think innately people would be in an interracial couple, which is why it's not something that, especially Black and white, that's not something that we always see. I just don't think innately it would happen. Like, but whatever. So now we're gonna go on to the 1900s because the 1800s they was just printing pictures in newspapers. There wasn't really nothing going on. Of course, information. What you need to pay attention to is that information was not able to be spread that much in the 1800s. So people was doing shit, getting away with it. Like, think about it. At one time, we didn't have cell phones. We had beepers. Imagine your nigga out cheating and you got to get a page. I can't even fathom how a beeper would even work. But I'm assuming like you just look. It's like a little screen. Like I'm guessing a message come across it. Like I don't know. But imagine you got to go down and I don't know. That's just crazy to think. Like if your man doing something, like how would you even catch him? Like nobody's not gonna hit you up on your beeper. People probably don't even know what a beeper is. You're probably too young for that. We also used to have payphones. Like, remember, you used to have to like call really quick, say the message, hang up. Crazy. But anyways, in the 1900s, that's when the Harlem Renaissance and the Black queer expression started. And the reason why I say this is because this was something that was very important. It was Black women. You had Black artists like Ma Rainey, Bessie Smith, and Gladys Bentley, and they were openly gay, and some of them were bisexual, but they had drag balls that flourished in Harlem. And Richard Bruce Nugent, he celebrated same-sex love. These were early unapologetic expressions of Black queer identity. And again, Black women were at the forefront. Black men have always, okay, at this time, I get it. We had just came through the being butt broken. Like you get what I'm saying? So black men were recovering at this time. We wasn't there because we had just went through a lot. So black women were, they had just watched everything. So that's why I say like at this time, black men aren't really like coming out as queer because you got to think all of the stuff that they went through and how they demonized being gay, even though they were like taking their manhood. That's why it's just a lot. You really need to look up some stuff, but that gets us into a different type of media. So in the 1900s, people don't know this. 1915 was the first film in the U.S. Can you imagine 1915? So in 2015, we only had movies for 100 years at that point. This shit relatively new. Like this shit about to get worse than when Ari replied because imagine movies only been around for a little over 100 years. Bitch, I love a movie. Every night I watch a movie while I go to sleep. Like every night I'm on Disney Plus watching something on National Geographic. So that's why I'm like, I couldn't imagine if David Attenborough couldn't make like Planet Earth 1, 2, 3, 4, the stars. I just couldn't imagine like that would really hurt. But at one point we didn't have movies, but the first movie is important because imagine the very first movie. Like imagine these people just been looking at newspapers and photos. Now they have something that's gonna move. It's gonna be, it wasn't color, it was black and white, but it's gonna be on a big screen, it's gonna move, and it's fucking A Birth of a Nation. So if you don't know what A Birth of a Nation is, that movie is a terrible movie. Okay, that is where this white supremacy, like when people say white supremacy does not exist, tell them to go watch Birth of a Nation. And if you haven't watched Birth of a Nation, you need to go watch it. Mm-hmm. Okay, boom. Somebody just pointed out something that is a good point. The movies were government sponsored. So imagine the government was controlling the media this whole time. Who would ever imagine? That's how you know when something is the agenda because media, like, and I mean, I'll just say this now. Media used to be monopolized. We had to stop monopoly. So basically now the media is broken up. But let's just say this. NBC might own all of these conglomerates. And then they might own all of these conglomerates. It's basically like they're still owned by the same people, but they just move stuff around so it doesn't look like it's all owned by the same people, which is why when you see a bunch of celebrities talking about the media, if you pay attention and listen to this, like Shannon Sharp, he's a perfect person for you to go listen to. Who else? Maybe Stefan Diggs. They'll be like, "Oh, the media," but they'll say the media as if the media is just one entity. Because the media is one entity. Like the media is very important because media controls narratives. Society is controlled by the media. Media controls culture, it controls society, which is why the media is so important, which is why we live in an age where, like I always tell y'all, I don't let people play with my name because that controls, like, it's deep, is what I'm saying. Media goes deep. A lot of people don't understand. Like they just on media to be entertained. You just want to be. That's how consumerism works. I don't scroll. I can't be like influenced to buy something. You know how we're always talking about something and then it pop up for you to buy it. That's why I don't do that kind of stuff. But I'm also not that much of a consumer because I understand what it is. Like when we just had that snowstorm, I fed into consumerism. I went out and spent $200 on groceries and it didn't snow. I was buying shit that I didn't have to buy. I'm buying all of this extra bread and doing too much. Like I fed into it. Like, but I was like, I'd rather be safe than sorry. But that's how consumerism works. Okay, so also let's keep going because it's already been 40 minutes. I knew this was going to run over. So, did you know that in 1924, the Society for Human Rights in Chicago, how ironic, just when I think I didn't have anything good to say about Chicago, y'all done something right. Y'all, I ain't gonna lie, like y'all done a little something right. I didn't even know it was gonna say Chicago, so maybe that's a sign for me to let up on Chicago a little bit. But what I want to say is that the Society for Human Rights in Chicago became the first known gay rights group in the U.S. It was quickly shut down. Of course, Chicago can't have nothing nice, so it was quickly shut down. But basically, the reason why I put this in here is because I want people to remember, like the LGBT was not started because of gay stuff. It was started because women wanted legal reform and they wanted to destigmatize medical, like the medical field for themselves. It wasn't about identity or pride. It wasn't about they were lesbians, which that's what brought them together. Like when you create a conglomerate, like you have to have a similar mission. You have to like what brought us together. Okay, we're all lesbians. Okay, now what is our mission? Now that we know we're all lesbians, what is our mission? Like sometimes you get what I'm saying. So them being lesbians was just like that was just by chance because I don't. Everybody wasn't a lesbian, but some people were lesbians, so they just went ahead. Women are more practical to me. Like some of the women that were straight could have been mad that it was considered like a lesbian organization, but they weren't. They're like, okay, we're just women, but some of us are lesbians. It's like men being gay. They don't want to be gay. Women are okay being lesbian. Like they're okay. They always have been, which is why there's not no stigmas around women being lesbians because women have never had that self hatred. So, anyways, in the 1940s to 1950s, queer activism and racism. So, in 1946, and this is important because T.S. Madison stole my PowerPoint at one point. Like, and he could have got his information from somewhere else, but it was just a little ironic that he was using my exact dates and my verbiage. That's why I say hoes want to be me so bad. They want my information. They want my intellectual property out of my head. They want my brain because these type of conversations are important and they can't have these type of conversations. But anyways, in 1946, the concept of homosexuality as a specific term that was not originally present in the Bible, it was added in 1946. It was added in the Revised Standard Version. And the reason why that's important is because homosexuality was like, okay, the word, when I use the word homosexuality, that's not what they were using in the Bible. Like, we know that there was some, but see, we wouldn't even call it gay stuff if they didn't give us the word. We knew that there was some same sex stuff. That's what we'll say because sex is based off biology. So we know that there was some man on man stuff. They didn't call it gay, but in 1946, that was revised into the Bible. Okay, so remember that the Bible has been revised. So in 1950, there was a society that was founded in Los Angeles, which sustained the first gay rights organization in the U.S. So there have been gay rights organizations, but okay, so 1950. So in 1955, the Daughters of Bliterists formed the first lesbian civil rights group in America. Because remember, when women tried to do it, in 1924, they said, no, 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 women can't do it. But then when the gays do it, now it's like, oh, but women, luckily, they still put the L first. And I think they put the L first because it looks better or something. Because, I mean, I don't know why they stopped the women in 1924, but then in 1950, now you got these punks, 25. And you see how long it took them punks to get comfortable? It took them punks 25 years. And remember this, though, this the gag. Look at the picture. In the 1950s, they go in order. So 1946, who you see in that picture being the punks? White men. But if we go back, if we go back throughout history, didn't they say white men weren't gay? But now all of a sudden in the 1950s, these white men are starting gay organizations that weren't ever meant for black people. That's why when y'all bitches be trying to, and when I say bitches, I'm talking about the LGBT. When they be like, oh, we're a community, baby, the LGBT was never created for your black ass or my black ass, which is why you don't see my black ass even playing a part in it. Because I'm not going to go help and fight for white people that don't give a fuck about me. But yeah, so in the 1960s, queer activism, it kept going. So Jose Serrar, which was a Latin drag queen, became the first openly gay person to run for a public office in 1961. So in 1961, remember, this is when people started transitioning secretly, which is why they think so many people are trans in politics, because in 1961, if we was barely even segregated and accepting black people, you mean to tell me you want me to believe that we was accepting drag queens and cross dressers and cosplayers? Boo. People that when I saw this, I was like, oh yeah, some of them politicians and stuff, they've been trans, because if people been transitioning since the 1960s, why the fuck did it just become mainstream in 2020? That's how I know, like, from my research, everything that we have, the government been had it. Like AI just now hitting us, the government been using AI. That's why I was like, we don't know what the fuck has ever been real, because AI didn't just come out. When they be having cures for stuff and rewriting genes and doing all of this, that didn't it don't just be happening. They already be having that technology. And that's why I say, like, this proves, like, because they didn't 1960s, we had some drag queens in politics. That should tell you a lot. Also, we want to talk about Bayard Rustin, because Bayard Rustin was a black gay man. Love that. He was the key strategist behind the 1963 March on Washington, but he was sidelined due to his sexuality. Okay, so if you don't know about the March on Washington, basically the March on Washington. Wait, the March on Washington. See, this is why I gotta eat, y'all. I gotta eat. The March on Washington, go look it up, because babe, like, we gotta get through this. Like, we gotta get through it. Okay, so this is important too, because the trans community. You see how we done had all of this shit. Now we in the 1970s, damn near. Now you got the trans people. You got Jamie Foxx twin, aka Marsha P. Johnson. Because let me tell you, the trans people love this person. They like Jamie Foxx twin, because Jamie Foxx twin literally punched somebody. See, these bitches, you know what? Proving my point that they're violent. They literally threw a punch. I don't think people get that. Like, when this little Stonewall uprising, like, it was literally punches thrown. Like, the trans people, this trans person, you see the only black one, the white people was not throwing punches. His black ass was out there throwing punches to be a part of the LGBT community, because they're like, no, we're trans. And the whole time the LGBT was telling them, I mean, the LGB was telling them, like, hey, we're sexuality, so we don't know if y'all want to be a part of the sexualities. You didn't get my live deleted. I deleted it myself. Y'all be thinking y'all got so much power. Why would I keep a live up that is going to help somebody else and that is negative? We're on positivity. So like I was saying, make sure you understand that trans people fought to be a part, and they're still not a part of the white community. They're still not a part of the white community. Prove it, side off Toy Story. Post a screenshot. But they're still not a part of the white community. Like, there's still a gender identity. Like, babes, you see how delusional they were? They got this black one, because the black trainees are always the most delusional. They got this black trans person to literally go and punch people for them. Literally got this black trans person to go punch people for them. And now look at the trans community still trying to literally fight, but now they're trying to fight women, which back then they were still trying. I guess some shit never changed. They've been trying to fight women since the 60s. So in the 1970s, black and brown people began queer organizing. This is where I would say if you go back to the 1970s, people used to be so free and like hella gay. I don't know why people were so free. I wish I was born in the 70s. Like people were DL, but they were still free. Like that's when, remember, the men used to wear like the bell bottoms and they used to do all of the stuff with the stuff. Like that's when you had like those men. Now we would know that they were gay. Back then, it was so normal that women just thought that that was like, just the thing of the thing. But yeah, so people of color created their own movements through the racism in a white-led gay groups because again, LGBT was never for Black people. So the Combahee River Collective in 1974 was a radical Black lesbian feminist group because, of course, the Black women always got to do it. So they were the third world gay revolution, and they pushed intersectional activism, which is kind of like what you see a lot of people doing. The difference is they were fighting for everybody. Black women have always historically fought for everybody, and I think it's because by them being the most oppressed and being the most oppressed, I think it's easier to not want people to go through what you went through or to not be oppressed like you, which is why it's easy to see Black women, coming together to fight with other people. That's why when we talk about feminism, white women needed Black women because Black women were able to protest and fight for themselves, unlike other groups of women that had been conditioned by patriarchy to think that they should never speak up to a man, they should never do this, they should never do that. And had they not ripped the Black men from the households, Black women probably would have been conditioned too. But you can't be conditioned if you ain't got no man in the house. If your man is not shit and he leaves you after you have children, like, you get what I'm saying? Like it's not gonna be the same. That's why I was like, that's good and bad because now Black women are the strongest group. When I say men, I mean everybody. White men created fake systems of power, but the true power, Black women have all of it. And that's why everybody hates Black women. You have too much power. So in the 1980s, that's when the HIV/AIDS crisis began. I put this in here because it's important. The government and the media ignored the AIDS epidemic because I do feel like it was something placed into the community because they placed drugs in the community. Like, I don't know why people cannot believe that this was something placed specifically in the Black community. The way that it disproportionately affects Black people versus white people, the way that PrEP has been around since 2011, Black people just started hearing about PrEP. I don't know no Black people that didn't know about PrEP before like 2016, 17 maybe. It's been around since 2011. You know how many Black men should have been on PrEP? But didn't know about it because it wasn't being advertised to them because they wanted Black men to catch it, which is why now, if you pay attention to the CDC, I keep telling y'all, the CDC projects that by 2037, which is, I think, a little over 10 years, it's 2026, 11 years. So in 11 years, they're projecting that 50% of Black men will either have HIV or AIDS. So half of the whole Black population of men. How? Now close your eyes right now and think about that. Every 1 out of 2. So that every time you see 2 Black men together, 1 out of 2. Think about that. That's something for you to think about. And I think that it was I think it affects Black women and Black men the most because I feel like it was specifically put into the community. I do. Okay, so now we're gonna get into the 1990s, which is the global people of color movements. Like this is where it kind of rises. So people of color focused on LGBT plus groups like Andre Lord Project, API Wellness Group, and Gay Men of African Descent Forum. So Black Pride events began. So in the 1990s, this is where essentially gayness starts, I guess, becoming normalized, you could say, because I mean they had events for it. So even in Asia, even in China, that's why I'm like, it's illegal to be gay in a lot of places, but at the same time, it's like everybody has always been gay. Like clearly, if they were doing this in Asia and China, and we already talked about how people look at their spirit. So in the 2000s, this is where trans and queer people of color visibility. So that's when we had people like Janet Mock, Laverne Cox, and CC Donald gained visibility. Black Lives Matter was co-founded by three queer black women, which a lot of people don't know. But this is important because this is where people of color voices started to grow louder in culture and politics. And think about it, Laverne Cox is so problematic now. Laverne Cox is so problematic. But yeah. So and then of course 2020 to president, this is where intersectional justice frontline. So marches for black trans people in 2020 were among the largest LGBT protests because again, people clearly give a fuck. And you had people like Little Nas, Saucy Santana, and Kalani represent unapologetically black queer presence in mainstream media. Trans people of color led to resistance they led resistance to anti-trans laws. So this is currently where we are. We're in the heat of this. You see how we done went through the history? Now you know all of the back history. Now you know all of the back history of the LGBT. And to me, that's not even a lot of history that you needed to know. But now that you know it, it's kind of important. Now you see why patriarchy, to me, why I keep saying it innately makes men gay. Now we're going to get into how to tell if your man is DL because I think now it's good to just get straight into it. But that's why I say patriarchy, to me, makes men gay. I think that was the goal. I do. White men, I think we know they were already gay, which is why I think the goal was to just make men be a little gay. So we are going to get straight into it because, like I said, some people had questions earlier and this is going to be answered. So who is the DL Whisperer? So my name is actually Naquan, or you can just call me Quan because I know some of you know my name, of course. So we can start. You can call me DL Whisperer. You can call me Quan. You can call me Naquan. It doesn't really matter. So my objective here is to help women. So I've had my experiences with DL, man, as you probably already know. I'm sure you see that a lot. But what I did not like is that once I figured out that there was a difference in DL and closeted, which we've already went over, I didn't like the fact that women don't have the options to say, okay, I don't want to do this or I do. Because DL men aren't upfront with women, which is the biggest issue. They're putting women at risk. They're creating families that they don't want. So it's a whole lot of things that are going on with that. So with that being said, I felt like, okay, I needed to come and help women out, and I've been helping women for over a year. So that's my objective. And when we talk about DL men, trans women are DL men. Let's just be clear. I just want you to know that. I think trans women are DL men. So it's all the same thing. Okay, so let's go ahead and get straight into it. So I do have a disclaimer. There is no universal way to tell if a man is DL. There's no universal way. So we're going to start with defining what DL means because I do feel like that's important. So DL refers to men who secretly engaged, or have desires for same-sex relationships while maintaining a heterosexual identity. It's very important that you hear the heterosexual identity part. If I think that a man is gay just by looking at him, that's not really giving heterosexual. Like these are like hyper masculine men that you can look at and you will not think that they're gay. You won't think they're gay. These are not men that you're gonna look at and be like, he looks sweet as hell. These are men that you're gonna look at and think that they're not gay. So because that's how you be DL. People can't think you're gay. If people think you're gay, you can't be DL. So you need to think of DL men as being on the spectrum because some DL men are gonna become trans women. Some of them are gonna be gay. Some of them are going to be bi. Some of them are going to say they're demisexual. Basically, all DL men are not going to identify. None of them are going to identify as gay. That's the only guarantee. But none of them are going to identify. They're going to all identify as straight. But when you think about it, they're not straight. Some of them are gay. Some of them are going to turn into women. Some of these DL men are going to end up transitioning. If they go to prison, your DL man might turn into a woman. So what I want you to think about is like, when we talk about DL man, we're talking about archetypes. So within an archetype, you need to think about it like this. If we're here, DL man is the overall title. The subtitle could be nerd man, hood man, athletes, rappers. Like you see how we have these subtypes, which are archetypes. So Everybody in each archetype isn't DL. Like every rapper isn't gonna be DL. Every man that sells weed isn't gonna be DL or a drug dealer. Like, but what we're doing is like the way that a person that is a rapper versus a nerd, they're probably gonna operate a little bit differently. Like the nerdy men that I've dated, they like to play a lot of games. Like literally in the house playing games. They work certain types of jobs. Like they like IT, they like technology, more technology based. Like the men that I used to date that sold drugs, they weren't really like playing games and shit. They're more like they want to go to the club. They're more hood. It's the difference. Sometimes you might get a mixture of both. Like you might get a hood nerd, but I'm just saying you need to pay attention to archetypes because a lot of y'all pay too much attention to like just little things, little minute things. Pay attention, go for the archetype, and then pay attention to that first. Okay, so we're gonna get straight into it because, like I told you, I'm ready for my food to thought, so I might talk a little bit fast. But somebody had a question earlier. Now this is your chance for your questions to be answered because, okay, when we talk about DLism, we always start with the personality. So I personally think DL men are indoctrinated by patriarchy, and if you don't know what patriarchy is, we just talked about it. So if you might have to watch the playback. So narcissism is the first trait of a DL man. All DL men are narcissistic. I personally believe that simps are straight men because when you look into the word simp, those are the straight men. Just take my word for it. I've done too much research. Simps are the straight men. If you need an explanation, I might do that in the morning. But I just want you to know simps are the straight man. And when I say simps, I don't mean a lot of y'all be mistaken what a simp is. Like if a man manipulated you, that's not a simp. A man that's a simp is going to be somebody that actually cares about you. They're going to be somebody that the truth might hurt you, but they're going to want to tell you the truth because they care and respect and cherish you that much. And they feel like, it's like one of those things where it's going to be certain people where you're just not going to lie to them. But regardless, they're going to treat you properly. And it's not going to just be based off money. A lot of y'all, the reason why you thought you had a simp is because he was buying you stuff. Let me just tell you this because if my Tasha K interview is coming out tonight, then you're gonna see that I've had a bunch of sugar daddies. Some men just have money. They don't care. Like literally, some men just have money. They don't give a fuck about you. They'll buy you a lot of stuff. Also, right after that, they're gonna be misogynistic. Of course, that's the hatred towards women. If you're talking to a man that hates women, and I'm beating my head with a mouse because if you're talking to a man that hates women, he's not gonna love you. He hates women. Like he hates women. So loving you is not on his mind. You're just somebody he's gonna use you as a masturbation tool. You're just a pocket pussy at this point. Like that's essentially what you need to think about that as. Because that's how they're gonna view you. They're just gonna view you as just a hoe, just somebody to get off. Hold on, because I see we have a bit of a distraction, so I need to get this person out of here. Because do you want to be? Because I think it's time. Like, are they aggravating y'all on Facebook? Because I feel like he's very aggravating, whoever that is. But hold on, let me block him. Okay, so he blocked, so he should be good and gone. Because I was ignoring it, but I just saw the comment when I came back. But yeah, so misogyny, they're gonna be misogynistic. They're gonna hate women. They're gonna be impulsive. The reason why we talk about impulsivity is because if a man can't control his urges, that's not good. Those are men that don't have self control. They're the men that are always horny. They'll fuck anything, anybody. They just want to get their rocks off because they're so impulsive. These are gonna be men that have addictions. It's basically like when you're impulsive, it's something in your brain. Like you can't, your impulses are, they kind of keep you from doing things that you shouldn't do. So when a man is impulsive, he might do stuff that he knows isn't right, like cheating. Like maybe he knows that, just certain shit. And I think sometimes that comes with gay stuff. That's why they'll do it. And then once they climax, it's like, oh, I'm not gay. Like then they don't want to be touched. Like JP used to be like that at first, and I'll just kind of tell you that. So like at first, for like the first maybe 4 years, which is crazy because why was I with him for that? But like the first 4 years, like he was a person that wasn't really emotionally connected, and sex would definitely make him feel too vulnerable. And then after the fact, he would feel like he needed to close off because he was so vulnerable from like what he just did. Because when you having sex with a man, you can ignore the fact that you're gay. So after the fact, you don't want to see that man necessarily, or it's like you're basically reminded. But I think that they need to be reminded because that's how it helps them feel comfortable. And then they're gonna be manipulative. A lot of DL men are manipulative. They have to be. That's how they keep you from finding out that they're DL. They just manipulate you. Every time you think you got a little nugget, every time you think you got a clue, they're gonna manipulate you to throw you off their track. Hmm. They're gonna manipulate you. You say, is it bad to assume a man that does drugs or down low? Mm-mm. I don't think so. Also, they're gonna want princess treatment. Anytime a woman has to be masculine, and I always have to put in quotes or parentheses because when y'all hear masculine, you automatically will say, I'm not masculine because you think that I'm talking about your appearance. No. I don't think no most even if you look like your dad, I don't think you're gonna be masculine in appearance. I think what a lot of people don't pay attention to is like you're not masculine, but maybe your personality is a little bit more masculine. Like if you're the head of the household and you have a man, like imagine if you're going out to work every day and your man is like lollygagging around, not really doing shit, playing the game, that's pretty masculine because the roles are now reversed. You would think a woman would be able to lollygag while the man, is out working hard all day. So that's why I say like to me, I would deem that masculine because you're having to be the head of the household. You're the breadwinner. You're bringing home the bacon. You wear the jeans in the relationship, and he wears the skirt or if you're forcing a man to do right, never have to force a man to treat you right because if you got to force him to treat you right, you're already being masculine. And the reason why it's masculine is because to force him to treat you right, you're gonna have to dominate him. You're gonna have to be aggressive. You're gonna have to be all of the things that at least men would deem to be masculine. Does the stuff that they would deem to be masculine. So DL men love to create drama and confusion. They hate themselves. So you see how these trans people are always trying to like create drama and confusion to take away from the fact that they hate themselves. DL men do the same thing. So they're always going to come off overly confident. That's not really who they are. You have to really get underneath the surface because once you get underneath the surface, you're going to see like, okay, this person hates themselves and you will not have an emotional connection with a DL man because they hate themselves. So if a person can't love themselves inside, they'll never love anybody else. And that's why a lot of these DL and trannies and gay boys be mad at me too, because it's so clear that I love myself and that, self love is prevalent over here. But for them, they don't have that. They don't love themselves. They have low confidence. Like and that plays a big part in DL men too. Like it's a lot of self hatred, which is why I say like men who have a bunch of self hatred that will not date like black men who don't date black women. That's self hatred. White men who don't date white women, white women who don't date white men. It's like if you're not dating your own ethnic group, that's typically a sign of self hatred. That's a sign that you hate yourself. If you're with a dark skinned man that wants light skinned kids, that's a sign of self hatred. So that's what I mean by like look for those type of things. So now we're gonna get into the mother trauma. DL men usually have a toxic relationship with their mother, which is why they need that princess treatment. They need you to be the head of the household. They need you to pay everything and raise them like you're their mother. Because that's what they view a woman as. Because their mother put all of her energy into raising her son. And that's not always the good thing, especially if you don't know about patriarchy. Your son could be conditioned to fall right in line with patriarchy. So men who have toxic relationships with their mother, or DL men who have these mother trauma issues, they typically are wired to think more like women, which is why they want you to treat them like a woman. They want you to chase them. They want you to send them money for lunch. They want you to be this. It's like they've been socialized by women. So they are social. They're basically wanting what they've seen, which is why you'll see a bunch of these trans people. They're always like, "Well, I want to be treated like my mother." It's like, but you're a man, boo. You're a man. You can't be treated like your mother. You're still a man. So, and then they tend to have estranged or toxic relationships with their mother and women around them. So you'll be able to pick that up. They usually resent women, and it normally starts with the mother. A lot of mothers push their sons to be masculine and heterosexual above all else. You should just raise your children with good character. Their sexuality should not be your concern. Do not be a Mama D. Do not be a Mama Nancy. Don't be the mothers that. Don't be a Carlista. We can recognize these mothers. Don't be one, because we know that those aren't healthy relationships with their son. Mama D don't have a healthy relationship with Scrappy. Carlista and Blueface do not have a healthy relationship. Jim Jones and his mama don't have a healthy relationship. Who else don't have a healthy relationship? I believe Cam Newton and his mother doesn't have one, but by the way that he treats women, because if he had a good relationship with his mom, would he treat women the way that he treats them? I don't know. I'm thinking he wouldn't. So I mean, a lot of this. Oh shit! A lot of the times you can see or about guests who had a good relationship with their mom, but men also are very talkative when it comes to their mothers. A lot of them just be waiting for the moment to talk shit about their mothers. If a man never has anything good to say about his mother, he probably has a bad relationship with her. If he's like always kissing her ass to her face, hold on, I need to do something. If he's always kissing her ass to her face, but behind her back he's always talking shit and scared to say it to her, that's not a healthy relationship. It's actually a toxic, unhealthy relationship. And a lot of men don't cut off their toxic relationships with their mother, which is the issue. Not that they got to cut it off, but they don't even work through them. So if they have that and you're a woman, you need to make sure you're paying attention to that. Yeah, I don't know. Go ask Mary, fat ass. Yeah, go ask Mary. Go ask Mary why the fuck she's so fat. That's what you need to be worried about. I can't answer for somebody else but I can ask why Mary is so fat and rolling around in a computer chair, but her son has all of this money. That's what I can ask. Why the fuck Mary's so fucking nasty and just so big and look like a fucking walrus? That's what I can ask. What you need to worry about is Miss Mary health. Because wasn't she just in a hospital recently? Would hate for her to go under. Would hate that for Mary. She already fat as fuck. Because now this bitch starting to piss me off. You said this was safe space. Yeah. No, for real. Mary and Tim sweat out pork grease. Right, Mary can't even walk to the mailbox. She's sitting around fat and nasty as fuck. She's sitting around fat and nasty as fuck. That's what you need to worry about, Timothy. You're mad that I posted your dick on Twitter. You're mad that people know that you have a dick. I don't know why. And that's the craziest part. I don't know why I hadn't been posting it, because a lot of people had never saw his dick. Now everybody has seen it. And that's why he's upset. Because now people saw his dick all over Twitter. It's okay. You're a man. You were literally getting fucked in the woods and in alleys, like I had been saying. I didn't even. The craziest part is, I didn't even have to see your videos to know that, and that's exactly where you were. Mm-hmm. Yup. Okay, so back to what we were talking about. My bad. I had to go block that person. It's like they want too much attention. My bad. Oh no, I'm gonna always stoop low. Don't tell me what to do now. That's what you don't want to do. Cause that's gonna be the quickest way to piss me off. Cause I just said I blocked them. I didn't ask nobody for no advice. So don't listen. Don't ever give me unsolicited advice. Thank you. Now back to what I was saying. Basically, you need to teach your son about patriarchy because if you teach your son about patriarchy, there's going to be less likely of a chance that he's going to hate you and hate other women. A lot of people don't know about patriarchy, so they don't understand how it's going to impact their son. They actually put their son into spaces. Oh no, I'm not mad, but I'm just telling you, like, don't come and tell me to ignore anything, because if I want to respond, I'm going to respond. That's all I'm telling you. Like, don't. That's why I said don't even start with that. Oh, don't say nothing. Don't tell me what to do when it comes to that. That's what I'm telling you. Cause you see how that person back again. You don't think that this is annoying. And matter of fact, I'm gonna let y'all have it. Cause what y'all not gonna do, don't tell me to not start nothing. So goodbye.